It's a new month, which means we have new movies coming out to theaters. This video is going to focus on maybe not the biggest blockbuster films, not going to be talking about Inside Out 2 or Bad Boys, but instead hopefully highlight some films that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, and then you can add some to your list. First, coming out June 7th, and then a wider release June 14th, we have Tuesday.
It hurts.
Where, honey?
Everywhere.
Tuesday came out initially, or at least played at the Telluride Festival last year. It is an A24 picture, a co-production with the BBC and the BFI. And it comes from a first-time director here in Daina Pusić, who's a Croatian director but works out of London. It stars Julia Louis-Dreyfus in a role that's a little bit different for her. This is not Seinfeld, obviously. This is not Veep. This is, at least appears to be, a pretty interesting psychological, allegorical drama. Essentially, in Tuesday, we have a mother and a daughter. The daughter is faced with a terminal illness, and together they are faced metaphorically, but also quite literally with death. Death arrives in the form of a physical being, a bird in this film. I know that from the trailer it may look a little bit cheesy, but early reviews of the film suggest that this is very serious. It is a real deep exploration of death in this metaphysical way. It is an allegorical tale, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. Next, coming out in theaters June 7th and then actually available to stream online June 18th is I Used to Be Funny.
I was an au pair for 2 years. I'm also a comedian. Hell yeah. So I spend most of my time with overgrown children.
I Used to Be Funny is another first feature, this time from Canadian director Pankiw. I was fortunate enough to be able to catch this one last year at the Calgary International Film Fest, and it's had quite a lot of success on the festival circuit, but still a lot of people haven't really heard much about it. This film stars Rachel Sennott, who is certainly not a household name, but has been absolutely crushing it with her film selection in her relatively early career, starting off with Shiva Baby, moving on to Bodies, 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 and more recently Bottoms, all of which have been pretty critically acclaimed, and her performances specifically have received a lot of praise. This film is no different in that regard. In fact, this is the project that really shines a light on her ability as an actor, and I expect to hear a lot more about her in the years to come. Essentially, Sennott stars as a kind of struggling comedian dealing with depression and PTSD. It is a film that is funny at times, but it is deeply serious. It explores Sennett's character, but it also explores this family dynamic and mental illness in a way that feels pretty real and grounded. It might not be a pitch-perfect film, but Sennett's performance stands out, and if you want to be ahead of the curve, I would highly recommend watching this for Sennott herself, but also for Pankiw's direction. These are two women in the industry that certainly are on the right trajectory. Plus, if you like Phoebe Bridgers, there's not just one needle drop, but there are two Phoebe Bridgers needle drops here. Pankiw and Sennott definitely, I think, are capturing kind of the zeitgeist of this millennial and Gen Z angst here. Next, coming out June 14th, is Ghostlight.
Hey, asshole!
Daisy!
Say hi to Mom, cheater!
Excuse me. Oh, God.
Is this a threesome?
It's for a play.
What play?
Ghostlight is a film that premiered at Sundance, has received wide praise, is an emotional film, is a very human film, and no one is talking about it. Ghostlight comes from a director duo in Alex Thompson and Kelly O'Sullivan, and they've created a really fascinating portrait of grief here, of familial relationships, most notably between father and daughter, in a way, as I mentioned, that feels very real and grounded. Again, another film that I was fortunate enough to catch here in Calgary, has been playing, as mentioned, at festivals around the world, premiering at Sundance, South by Southwest, and others, but still isn't getting that attention.
I think it's really great that you found a place for
The film follows a grieving father and daughter, played by real father and daughter, Keith and Katherine Kupferer. Apologies if that last name is mispronounced, but that just adds another layer to this project. Real father-daughter acting duo, and their grief transcends the screen. Essentially, they reconnect and kind of go through this process of grief together through a play, through Romeo and Juliet. As a former high school English teacher, I promise that I don't just love this project because of its Shakespearean elements, but because it is such a profound exploration of grief. Plus, it also features Dolly De Leon, who broke out in Triangle of Sadness and is starting to get some roles in other projects as well. Definitely worth checking out. It's only coming out in a limited release, but have a look in your local area and hopefully you can catch a showing. Coming out June 21st, we have Kinds of Kindness.
Open your eyes and look clearly at what's going on around you. We might all be in danger.
Kinds of Kindness might not be a super small picture. It is coming from Yorgos Lanthimos, who just directed Poor Things, which took home multiple Academy Awards, but it is not getting nearly as much attention as Poor Things. Of course, it's difficult to hit it out of the park in back-to-back projects, especially when they're released in such short succession, but I have enormous faith in Lanthimos. This film played at the Cannes Film Festival very recently and has received general praise. It is a Lanthimos film, so it's going to be weird. It is going to be divisive, almost by definition, to a degree. And this one perhaps is more divisive than some of his other features. It is split into three separate parts, kind of three separate stories, and that structure itself can divide folks. It is full of violence. It is full of sex. It is full of various oddities. I'm sure I have yet to actually see this one, but I have full faith in Yorgos and this amazing cast. We have Emma Stone again, who of course knocked it out of the park with Poor Things. We have Willem Dafoe, also was in Poor Things, and we have actors like Jesse Plemons, who took home the Best Acting Award at the Cannes Film Festival. If you are a fan of Poor Things or you appreciate the weird offbeat films, then Kinds of Kindness is a must-see. Coming out June 21st with a wider release June 28th, we have Janet Planet.
You actually seem very happy to me a lot of the time.
I tell. I don't think it'll last, though.
I'm actually pretty unhappy, too.
Janet Planet comes from a first-time feature director in Annie Baker, but don't be worried. Annie Baker is a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, so I have a feeling that this is in good hands. It is an A24 picture that seems to be very slow and methodical and rooted very much in the characters and the relationships between these characters. It follows mother Janet and daughter Lucy over the course of several months as they are both struggling. Janet invites various people over to their home over the course of this time, including a boyfriend and some other folks that Lucy might not immediately love. It seems to be, again, an exploration in some ways similar to Ghostlight of this kind of familial connection, this time between mother and daughter. And it also seems to explore the reality that we don't just immediately figure life out when we become adults. This is not something that is uniquely teenage angst. This is something that is universal. From early reviews, it appears to pretty adeptly weave comedic elements with human emotion and drama in a way that does not appear to be contrived. So again, if you're a fan of those soft, slow, relationship-centric dramas, then definitely check out Janet Planet. And last, coming out June 28th, is A Sacrifice.
It wasn't accidental. They killed themselves in shifts. And then there's this. Sacrifice is redemption.
The minute someone mentions sacrifice or redemption, I smell cult.
A Sacrifice is a little bit different than some of these other films on this list, but I did really want to include it. It comes from director Jordan Scott, and at first glance, or the first time that you hear that name, it might not ring a bell, but it is in fact Ridley Scott's daughter. And nepotism aside, I'm very intrigued to see her vision. She has put out some interesting short films in the past, although not so much recently. She kind of took a step back after putting out some short films in the earlier 2000s, but she seems to be willing to take some risks, so I'm excited to see how this turns out. There is a very good chance that it is not a great film. Very, very few people have seen this project. It hasn't had a wide festival run like a couple of the other films on this list, so we don't really know what to expect. Essentially, it's a psychological thriller starring Eric Bana, who is not really well known in recent years, but was kind of a breakout star, you could say, in the early 2000s in films like Black Hawk Down, Troy, and Star Trek. And starring alongside him is Sadie Sink, who, of course, has risen into prominence more recently for her role in Stranger Things. A Sacrifice follows a psychiatrist, the father, trying to save his daughter from this cult. Of course, things will go down. It is sure to be creepy. It is sure to be strange. And we'll see whether this younger Scott can kind of replicate at least a little bit of the success that her father, Ridley Scott, has had in his career. If you watched the video, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Awesome. You're the best. Subscribe, like, comment, do those things. It's good, I'm told. Until next time, watch the next one. Thanks.